Hello, my friends. It's nice to be here with you again. Welcome to November's My Very Own Book Club. Our book this month is called Lady Liberty. It's about the Statue of Liberty. The author is Doreen Rappaport. The illustrator is Matt Tavares. And the publisher is Candlewick Press. And there she is, the Statue of Liberty. The Statue of Liberty is in the harbor in New York, Manhattan Harbor. It's on an island all of its own because it is huge. This is a picture of Doreen Rappaport's grandfather, who was an immigrant from Latvia and came on the boat to New York to Ellis Island, and the first thing he saw when he got to New York was the Statue of Liberty. And everyone on the boat coming knew about the Statue of Liberty. It was very, very famous even then. This is the man who thought of the idea of the Statue of Liberty. The French were very good friends of ours, and they wanted to give us something that would remind us of how hard we fought to win our independence in 1776 in the Revolutionary War. His name was Edouard de la Boulaye, and he was a professor of law. He was a lawyer in France, and he came up with the idea in 1865. And the Declaration of Independence inspired him in the idea. So he made a small statue to show everyone what it would look like. And they raised the money to build it through donations from the people of France. The people of France donated the money to build the statue. And this is about Gustave Eiffel. I know you've probably all heard of the Eiffel Tower. That's what he is famous for. He was a structural engineer from Paris. And when he started to build it, Lady Liberty was the talk of Paris. Every day, hundreds of people came to watch her grow. To keep Liberty upright is a challenge as great as any I have faced in building bridges. Her copper shell weighed more than 179,000 pounds. So I made her a skeleton, a 96-foot-high iron tower of beams and ribs upon which to bolt her copper skin. Iron rusts when it touches copper. Some say my brilliance is having the beams pass through fittings so the iron does not fasten directly to the copper. The fittings also let her copper skin move to expand and contract with the weather, because when it's hot, things expand, and when it's cold, metal contracts. So he made it so that when that happened, when it got hot, it could move and not crack. I listen to the people talk as they watch her skin being riveted onto her skeleton. She inspires them. She inspires me. This is Emma Lazarus. Oh, I wanted to tell you something I didn't know that I learned reading this book, is that the skin, which is made of copper, because he said that he made an iron skeleton and then he put copper over it. So the copper, it was as thick as 2 pennies put together. So her entire covering was about that thick, the copper was. This is Emma Lazarus. I don't know if you know who she is. She is a poet. She was from New York City, and she wrote the poem that's at the base of the Statue of Liberty. A gala auction is being held to raise money for Liberty's pedestal, because the French people donated all the money for the statue, but they weren't able to raise enough money for the pedestal for her to stand on. And so Joseph Pulitzer, who was a newspaperman at the time, had the idea to ask the American people for donations to build the pedestal. And they raised almost $100,000, and it was mostly in pennies and dimes and nickels. The people of the United States donated to build the pedestal for her to stand on. And this is the poem that's at the bottom. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your ever-teeming shores. Send these, the homeless, tempest lost, to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. This is Joseph Pulitzer. He was a publisher, a newspaper publisher. He lived in New York, and it was his idea to ask for donations to build the pedestal. And they raised, through nickels, dimes, and pennies, enough money to build the pedestal for her to stand on. Let's see, I was going to do this one last thing for you. So when they unveiled her, they had a giant American flag draped over her face before they unveiled her and the ceremony was that the flag dropped from her face to show Lady Liberty. And then the coolest thing, well, the whole book was cool, but the really cool thing is if you go all the way to the back, there's all kinds of interesting information about the height from the base to the torch was 151 feet and 1 inch. Let's see, the length of the hand is 16 feet and 5 inches. I won't read them all to you, but it's really cool that it tells you what the size of everything is and how much it weighed. The copper alone, which was that outside was the skin over the skeleton, weighed 200,000 pounds, 100 tons. So it is big. And then all this is like a timeline of everything that happened in the building of the Statue of Liberty. And the last time it was refurbished was from 1980 to 1986. And that was done through donations too. Because at the time she was built, I thought this was really interesting too. Some people didn't want the Statue of Liberty, and especially some of the people of New York didn't want her. The mayor of New York they thought she was gaudy and garish, and they didn't want her in the city. Luckily, the next year they elected a new mayor, and he was all for it. So that's where she stands now, the Statue of Liberty. So I hope you have a chance to read the whole book. I hope you have a chance to read all the timeline and all the statistics on how much she weighs and how big, because it even tells you how the size of her mouth. I thought that was interesting. Let's see, where does it say? The width of her mouth was 3 feet. So what is 3 feet? Like that big, right? About that big, her mouth. Yeah, I think that's cool. All right, I hope you have a chance to read the whole book. It was very interesting to me. And now I have a craft I would like to do with you. I'm back, and look, this is the craft we're going to make. We are going to make a Lady Liberty headdress and torch. And one of the things that I forgot to tell you is that the torch is always lit. It never goes out, which I think is really interesting. But here we go, okay? Here are the things that you will need to make your own Lady Liberty headdress and torch. You will need a paper towel roll. You will need some paper plates, at least 2 paper plates. I'll tell you why in a minute. You'll need some tape, a pencil, scissors, a paintbrush, and I couldn't find a light enough green, so I used white and green and just mixed it until I got the light enough color. Now remember, they said the Statue of Liberty was made of copper, but the reason she's green is because in the air, the oxygen in the air oxidizes the copper, and that when that happens, the copper turns green. And if you want to do an experiment with oxidation, take a penny, lay it out on your back porch or on the sidewalk or something, and wait to see how long it takes to turn green. That would be cool, because that's what happened with the Statue of Liberty. When she was first put up, she was a golden coppery color, but over time she's turned green. So that's why I had to mix a darker green with white to make the light a light enough color of green. So with the paper plates, I painted them. I painted 2 of them green. And then I took the scissors and I cut off the bottom part like that, and then I cut out the center like that to make the headdress. With the bottom part that I cut out and some more triangles from the second plate that I painted, I made the spikes on her crown. You will need, so that's the scissors, you'll need a pencil and some red and yellow construction paper. If you don't have red and yellow, just color some paper the color you need it. That's what you need to make your flames. So you're going to, like you painted the paper plate for the headdress and the spikes, paint your paper towel tube the same color of green, because it's copper also and it oxidized in the oxygen, and turn green. I just eyeballed it. You could use something to trace it with, but I cut like 2 big red ones. I just drew them like this and cut them out. I cut 2 big yellow ones. I put 2 red on each side, 2 yellow on each side, and then I went back and I cut 2 small red ones and 2 small yellow ones to lay on top of the bigger ones to make it look like flame. So in the instructions they asked you to cut slits in the top, and I did that, but it really didn't hold it securely, so I also used some tape to help tape it on there. And that's what you need to make your Lady Liberty headdress and torch. That's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed the book. I hope you enjoy making the craft. If you do make the craft and you would like to, take a picture and put it in the comments, because I would love to see you in your crown with your torch held high. I will see you again in December. Our book for December is The Two Bobbies. I hope you will enjoy that. And tomorrow you could start registering for December. It will be up on the website. I will see you soon. Bye, my friends.